Welcome back to CBS Mornings. You are looking at a live picture of the door to number 10 Downing Street, official residence of the British Prime Minister. And as of this moment, 7:30 Eastern Time, that Prime Minister is Boris Johnson. He of the rumpled suit and messy hair. He's expected to walk through that door and resign as Conservative Party leader and leader of his nation any moment now. Not known for punctuality, not known for a firm grasp of names and details, an entertaining politician, much like some we've had on this side of the Atlantic. For more on the atmosphere of anticipation there in London, let's go to Charlie D'Agata, who is in Downing Street. In fact, no, Boris Johnson, the wind blowing through his hair, is about to speak. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week. And I've today appointed a cabinet to serve, as I will, until a new leader is in place. So I want to say to the millions of people who voted for us in 2019, many of them voting Conservative for the first time, thank you for that incredible mandate, the biggest Conservative majority since 1987, the biggest share of the vote since 1979. And the reason I have fought so hard in the last few days to continue to deliver that mandate in person was not just because I wanted to do so, but because I felt it was my job, my duty, my obligation to you to continue to do what we promised in 2019. And of course, I'm immensely proud of the achievements of this government, from getting Brexit done to settling our relations with the continent for over half a century, reclaiming the power for this country to make its own laws in Parliament, getting us all through the pandemic, delivering the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, the fastest exit from lockdown, and in the last few months, leading the West in standing up to Putin's aggression in Ukraine. And let me say now to the people of Ukraine that I know that we in the UK will continue to back your fight for freedom for as long as it takes. And at the same time, in this country, we've been pushing forward a vast program of investment in infrastructure and skills and technology, the biggest in a century, because if I have one insight into human beings, it is that genius and talent and enthusiasm and imagination are evenly distributed throughout the population, but opportunity is not. And that's why we must keep levelling up, keep unleashing the potential of every part of the United Kingdom. And if we can do that in this country, we will be the most prosperous in Europe. And in the last few days, I've tried to persuade my colleagues that it would be eccentric to change governments when we're delivering so much, and when we have such a vast mandate, and when we're actually only a handful of points behind in the polls, even in mid-term after quite a few months of pretty relentless sledging, and when the economic scene is so difficult domestically and internationally. And I regret not to have been successful in those arguments, and of course it's painful not to be able to see through so many ideas and projects myself. But as we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves. And my friends, in politics, no one is remotely indispensable. And our brilliant and Darwinian system will produce another leader equally committed to taking this country forward through tough times, not just helping families to get through it, but changing and improving the way we do things, cutting burdens on businesses and families, and yes, cutting taxes, because that is the way to generate the growth and the income we need to pay for great public services. And to that new leader, I say, whoever he or she may be, I say I will give you as much support as I can. And to you, the British public, I know that there will be many people who are relieved, and perhaps quite a few who will also be disappointed. And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks. I want to thank Carrie and our children and all the members of my family who've had to put up with so much for so long. I want to thank the peerless British civil service for all the help and support that you have given our police, our emergency services, and of course our fantastic NHS, who at critical moment helped to extend my own period in office, as well as our armed services and our...
There has been a major change this morning on the world stage. You've been listening to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announce that he is leaving what he calls the greatest job in the world. For more on that speech, and we heard the protesters there underneath the Prime Minister's remarks, let's bring in British journalist John Sopel, former BBC correspondent, expert on all things British, and can translate it all for us. John, what stood out to you?
There were two things that stood out for me from that. He very pointedly said it was the Conservative Party at Westminster, i.e. the members of Parliament, who wanted him gone. The implication of that clearly being that he believes he still has the support of in the country. And the other thing he then went on to say was, he said it was their herd instinct, i.e. they were just sheep that were following the lead and that they didn't really know what they were doing. Do you really know what you've done to bring down this great man? I thought it was remarkable that there was little self-analysis of maybe that he has contributed enormously to the problems that he has faced.
John, Boris mentioned this Darwinian system. So the question is, how does the British government evolve from here?
And that we haven't heard yet from Boris Johnson. There are a huge number of Conservative members of Parliament who think it is simply untenable for him to carry on for months as Prime Minister while you are waiting for a new one to be appointed. What they are saying is there needs to be a caretaker. And Boris Johnson clearly wants to carry on for as long as possible. And that is why today, I mean, I thought yesterday was the maddest day I have ever seen in British politics. I'm now thinking that today is even more nuts, because Boris Johnson, without any authority, having announced that he's resigning, is trying to appoint ministers to take up positions. Who would want to take up a position given these circumstances? So there's still a lot in this Darwinian system that we just don't know how it's going to play out.
All right, John Sopel for us with his peerless analysis. John, thank you very much. For folks just tuning in, Boris Johnson swept into power with the largest Conservative majority in the UK since Margaret Thatcher in the 80s. Announces the end of his reign as Prime Minister. Details still to be worked out about who will succeed him. We'll be right back. You're watching CBS Mornings.